Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is the 24th of 2017. That is an interesting result. Okay,
we can't reference it without now bringing it up, Nick.
So when before we started recording, Chris, you wanted to reference Kaku from One Piece.
Yes, okay.
The giraffe guy that Zoro fights.
So before we start Weekly Manga Recap each week, I post up a tweet saying, hey, it begins, and then a link to the two accounts that we stream it from. And then I always try to include a GIF, usually something kind of either related to the series we're discussing that week, or sometimes just something funny, like a line or a particular like visual element from some series we've seen. Sometimes comedic, sometimes like serious. And this week I was just kind of searching for something, and the first thought that came to mind was like, oh, I should bring up like the Kaku fight from One Piece, Kaku versus Zoro. Like when he, like maybe there's some attack where he like giraffe fucking long net stretches and attacks or something. So I went to Twitter's GIF search. I typed in Kaku. That's how you spell Kaku. The first result is Ariana Grande from her video. I can't remember the name of the song, but she's a space girl in it. And at one point she has rocket tits, and it's just her tits shooting missiles over and over again. And I don't know why that was the first result that came up when I searched for Kaku, but because it was, I had to use it. Like, you don't understand, I had to. But you have an interesting Twitter GIF too, Nick.
Yeah, mine's weirder than yours because it's Jinder Mahal with the WWE Championship, which is a thing that's happening. So
I had heard, I mean, obviously I had already heard that he had won the number one contendership, and I had heard the stories that...
Right, and everyone was like, what the fuck, really? And then there was all this stuff with like, oh yeah, you know, they're trying to expand into the Indian market. He's like the one Indian guy on their roster. He's got to shut the world out. Everyone was like, okay, Randy Orton will RKO him, move on to another feud, and he'll drop the title to somebody important at SummerSlam. Nope!
You know, it's not that surprising to me. They had given it to Great Khali at one point, too, just because he was popular in India.
Because all of their roster was injured.
Yeah, it's Stranger Things, Nick. After recent results and people who have won things in recent memory, I've come to the conclusion that I really can't be surprised when something happens anymore. I can't set myself up for that. So in my mind, I see Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton on a pay-per-view, and I'm like, yeah, Jinder Mahal has a shot because anyone can be anything.
There were some people who were like, you know what? It wouldn't be the weirdest result that could possibly happen. And yeah, then it happened. The weird thing about it, though, is that my job, I work at night and I work Sundays. But I've had the past week off. Like, I was just taking a break from work. And so as a result of that, the first like WWE event in like a year that I've gotten to see and watch the main event was Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton. And so I actually saw it happen live. I missed so many good things that happened at the end of shows. So many wonderful things at the end of stuff on NXT. And, you know, like, I didn't get to see, like, for example, Bray Wyatt winning the championship, which was a much better match. And no, I saw Jinder Mahal doing his crappy wrestling against Randy Orton's boring wrestling, and the crappy wrestler beat the boring wrestler. There you go.
Think about it, Nick. When you are sitting down with your great-grandkids, you're on your Florida porch, sipping your lemonade in your rocking chair, they're like, Grandpa Nick, where were you when Jinder Mahal was champion for that brief month of time?
How the fuck did you hear about that? That name's been purged from the hours of history. They were so embarrassed.
I mental probed your mind. That's a thing we can do in the future. Also, why did you do a podcast with so many fellatio jokes in them? In my defense, I wasn't the one making them.
Didn't you have any shame? Didn't you think of it that your young grandkids might want to watch it someday? No, I never thought that you would be such nerds like me.
I trained you to be cooler than I am.
I tried to make you like the actual animal characters I would read about.
That's why I just gave you cold, distant, non-affectionate love. I wanted to make you all into Sasuke's.
That's why I killed your triplets so that you would cry tears of blood.
Grandpa, you're real shit.
See, there. Transitioned perfectly to talking about manga.
Done and done.
That means it's not accurate. That means that it wasn't a random segue or tangent.
It was all planned, everybody.
No, it was all planned. Our master plan. All right. We're going to be talking about manga today. Let's just kick off the recap portion of Weekly Manga Recap as we normally do with My Hero Academia. It's the heroes just beginning their plan to invade the Shie Hasakai's base so that they can rescue Eri and take everyone down.
Yes.
And very, very similar to how things went when All Might was leading the assault against the Villain Alliance. There's all sorts of police and SWAT gear there. All of the heroes and students that we've gotten to know over the course of playing this thing are there. And we're kind of casually chatting, honestly, to start things off.
Yeah, it reminds me of like that moment where you were like getting ready for a school field trip, and they kind of just had all the kids outside getting ready for the buses, but there's nothing to do, so you'd all just kind of stand around.
That is probably the closest thing that I can think of to this. That it's not like the kind of like this tense atmosphere with like people kind of like saying like, hey, we're going over the top and cracking gallows humor jokes. No, they're just like, oh yeah, they don't teach you about this whole thing, so I'll tell you about that. Aizawa pulling a side deck and saying like, hey, I just want you to know that I'm sticking near you guys while this is going on. That's really it. So
yeah,
odd atmosphere.
It is a little bit strange, but it also is one of those kind of cool moments I enjoy in manga where you get to see a real plethora of characters kind of interact with one another, especially in My Hero where everybody has these pretty distinct designs. It's fun.
So we cut to within the Shie Hasakai compound where Overhaul is talking with a man who is lying in bed, hooked up to a bunch of medical machinery. And he's apologized to him. It's very obviously his father, the former boss of the group. And he just kind of says it's about to get noisy in here. So sorry about that.
I'm going to wait. I'm anticipating when this other shoe drops, and we're going to find out the story behind Hisakai, because there's definitely something going on with him, just in terms of what his entire mentality is and how he bases it. It definitely seems to be contingent upon people like his father who seemingly are no longer needed in this world of heroes and villains.
Mm-hmm. Could end up being the impetus for his whole idea of taking away people's powers and stuff. So.
Yeah.
So, they begin their plan in the morning. It does have a pretty ridiculously kind of funny moment because they begin by just like going up to the buzzer, and right as they're about to ring up somebody within the compound, somebody comes smashing through the other side, and you're just like, what's going on? It's too early for so many guests.
It's amusing to me, and I actually like this aspect of them, that they are following 100% kind of like police procedure in a way, in that they're like, we have a warrant, let's contact them to see if anyone's home.
Hello!
Like, there's just this one dude who has no right to be there, but he's like, but I'm the warrant guy. Like, I'm a big deal in the police department. Yes, my head isn't a cat's, but I'm still a big cheese, I'll have you know.
Look at my awful haircut.
Yeah. That's my quirk. I have shitty hair.
He drew the short straw on who gets to read the warrant. So, obviously, this huge guy that's come storming in starts causing chaos. He's knocking cops aside, and so the heroes have to leap in and try and protect them. And Ryukyu steps up front in front of all the police and turns into a goddamn dragon. Yay!
Indeed she does, which is a pretty cool scene. But I didn't notice this until at first. It's only upon subsequent rereading that I noticed she still has boobs in her dragon form.
Yeah, she's a lady dragon, Chris. Come on.
I know. I'm just not used to seeing
those reptiles with their memories.
Yeah, I'm not used to seeing breasts on a dragon. I don't quite know how to feel about that.
She still also has her hair, but I guess it's more common for dragons to be depicted with hair than with tits. So, images of dragons that I've looked at, I know that there's an entire other corner of the internet that I don't look at, where I'm sure that they have body parts that they aren't traditionally depicted with. But anyway, God, she's gonna have a lot of fan art for now, isn't she? Anyway, so, chaos kind of immediately breaks out. Heroes, just have to go leap into action and go for their assignments and just move it. Suyu and Uraraka are with the Ryukyu agency, and they are kind of dealing with the chaos outside, while Kirishima and Deku and their groups move into the compound to actually achieve their objective. There's a bunch of random Yakuza just inside that they confront quickly enough, and a little bit of fun.
I don't understand this. So one guy reveals his quirk is leaf manipulation, and the way it's Leafipulation. I'm like, is that supposed to be a pun? Like, is this somebody trying to give me a running for my Halloween puns at this point? Because I don't even see the basis for this one.
The guy's just my quirk is boopulation. I'm like, shut up.
No, Nick, it would be manipulation, obviously.
That's actually a good one, though.
It's all about where you can squeeze in the boo.
See, I wear you down with all the horrible ones, and then all of a sudden I hit you with one that actually makes sense.
Bam! Yeah, knock it in right there at the end.
So there's a conversation that goes on between Overhaul and one of his minions, I guess. Or, actually, is that his minion, or is that supposed to be Shigaraki, because he's got the distorted kind of word bubbles?
No, it's, I think it's that one who we've seen a couple times.
Yeah, the white coat guy who showed up actually at the meeting.
Yeah. Because he notes, the whole point of having the mask isn't just to, prevent you from being, hit with a drug or something like that. It's more of a status symbol, so I can't imagine Shigaraki would reduce himself to wearing one, essentially.
Mm. So it seems as though Overhaul has a plan in place to, it looks like, escape through the tunnels or something like that beneath the compound, because he tells the guy, he's just like, well, yeah, they found our base of operations, but whatever, they're not going to find me. And then I'll just claim I wasn't there. They went wild all on their own. So we'll play that way. And, that's the reason why I have these guys working for me. So the white coat guy thinks to himself, yeah, when Chisaki chooses someone to work directly under him, he makes them wear one of those masks because there's sure to be some real dirty deeds. Why the mask? Because he doesn't want to breathe the same air as those contaminated individuals. It's not about trust, just their status as pawns. Which, hey, that's a cool explanation for the Plague Doctor thing.
Yeah, it works.
We get this big 2-page split panel spread of the 8 bullets of the Hasai group, a group of villains who look like are going to be very important in the next couple of chapters. And, of course, one of them is the guy who's rampaging around outside.
Yes. It's also worth noting, I don't think any of these other ones are ones we've seen before. We don't see the little tiny guy in there that was kind of following around. It looks like these are new characters. On one end, that also leads me to believe they're rather disposable, and they probably are. But that's usually fine, if you still get something interesting out of them. I do kind of think the designs here aren't as engaging, and maybe just because we're only seeing the heads. But I'm kind of hoping we get some really crazy powers with these guys, like the what was his name? Moonfish, I think he was, from the Vanguard group, who was like, I have teeth powers, essentially. I'm hoping there's some cool powers here. But yeah, this is the charge in, breakdown, let's do shit kind of chapter, and it serves that purpose well. I always love a good villain group. Let's see if the 8 bullets are able to stand the test of time. Yeah, let's see what we get out of them. We got that scarecrow looking motherfucker there on the end.
Yeah, he looks pretty cool. honestly.
Yeah. So, fine chapter all in all.
Okay. All
right.
All right, from
We're
here, we're
moving
going
on.
to Fairy Tale.
Yeah, we're going to
We recently learned is ending in a couple of months.
Yes. So, Fairy Tale, chapter 536, Savage Dragon Fire. And the cover is the Oration 6 arc, as we count down the remaining arcs of Fairy Tale via cover page. So, I don't know how you would describe the start of this. It's basically just angry yelling and punching. Yeah, it's just like, oh, that sort of thing, but without, like, the cool,
Fairy Tale Z going on here.
Yeah, it's not like, it doesn't have like the JoJo, like, like, it doesn't have that cool effect to it. It's just to be like, Seraph, Natsu, punch.
Kaneda Tetsuo!
But Seraph is finding himself getting pushed back, and that's not right. He has unlimited magic, and Natsu was at death's door.
Unlimited power.
Unlimited power. That shouldn't be happening. He has all that going for him. But surprisingly, Natsu's magic is burning. It is burning up Zeraph's time magic even itself.
Yeah,
and
he's burning for you.
Indeed. Like a ring of fire that they're all going to go down into. As Zeraph thinks to himself, he's incinerating his own soul. Is this Natsu's flame? The guild's flame?
It's Fairy Tale's flame. It's the flame of friendship.
Oh, man. The strongest magic of them all. Who would have thought? Who would have thought he used the strongest magic of them all?
That's not my problem with this chapter. And I've got about 5, so...
So, cut away, and we see the various members that were aboard the Blue Pegasus' ship who are now in the ocean because the ship was more or less destroyed. And
yeah.
all
It can't fly anymore.
Yeah, they're like, we're done. We're just going to sit here and I guess wait for Acrologia to eat us. But instead, the ship starts flying. And everyone's like, well, how is that happening? And we see Anna, and she's apologizing to the Blue Pegasuses because she is going to have to take their ship and use it to slam Acrologia into the hole. Presumably sacrificing herself. But
oh, no. Not Anna. The
character we just met.
Known for about 5 chapters.
But that's not all. See, there's a catch to it. We don't have enough time to actually acknowledge there even is like a catch to this, because the main member, or one of the members of Blue Pegasus, I can't honestly remember his name, Hasaki or something like that, Hayama, something lame. He's like, it won't work! Only members of Blue Pegasus can pilot the Christina. And
for some reason.
Yeah, I guess that's like a contingency that's
There's
on
like a DNA recognition software on the wheel or some shit.
Yeah. And they coded it that only like the members of their lame ass guild can use this like superior piece of technology. So it's you, Nick. Perfume guy. Weird looking, smelly perfume comic relief at you. Steps up and grabs the wheel and says, then allow me to handle the controls, because I could never allow a woman with such a wonderful perfume to go unescorted. He's George Takei. I don't know why.
Oh my.
Oh my. And off they go. Presumably, both the Chiyu and Anna making the ultimate sacrifice as they slam the Christina into Acrologia, bringing him into space-time and trapping all 3 of them inside the void.
And getting him to let go of Jalal.
Yes. So Jalal is dropped. He is rammed with the ship. He slams into the hole, and as he's getting sucked in, it's Acrologia being like, what is this? My body! Whoa! Swing! And he disappears. Cut away. No time to react. Cut away. Natsu is still punching him. And Zeraph, Nick, are you dying? I can't tell if my screen's frozen or if you just have one static reaction to this right now. Like if this is the greatest acting I've ever seen. Okay, no, it was just the camera fucking up. So Natsu, we cut back to him, and he's punching, he's fighting with, as Zeraph describes, a sacred flame. No, it's a blaze of savage emotions. Which one? What does that even mean? Like, it's saying like this is the flame of fairy tale or the flame of friendship. At least I can understand, like, okay, there's an inherent strength in unity. This is the flame of all those still living and those who are lost. This is Natsu gathering together everything that's been important to him to this moment. But so there's like a blaze of savage emotions. I was like, what does that mean? Like, because he's angry
From the author
and
who
sad.
brought you that book about fucking a T-Rex. Blaze of savage emotions.
And presumably, he just beat Seraph because, you know, we bounce back and forth between the two different groups kind of reacting to what's just happened. All the people back over in the ocean are just like, I can't believe it. They sacrificed themselves. The one female member of Blue Pegasus is like, did we win? We won, didn't we? Because she's crying. Everyone's really sad. And Natsu is huffing and puffing, but Seraph is the one who's on the ground saying, I can't move. This has never happened before. Can this be? No, I can't die. And Natsu just says, I'm going to leave the rest to you. All right, First Master? I'm kind of tired and I want to see the guys. Goodbye, big brother. And that's where we leave off.
Yeah, so... what the fuck?
Well, this isn't going to be the end of things. I mean...
No, we've apparently got, like, still, like, 2.5 months left of Fairy Tale. Which is why this is so surprising. It seems as though Hiro realized that there were some things that he needed to wrap up, or maybe one last plot point he wanted to introduce so that it could be quickly resolved. Because, so this reminds me of when Bleach was ending.
Okay.
And there was the whole, like, Bleach is ending! And, well, time for a bunch of villains to lose really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. To me, this is the first false finish. You want to probably put one of these in towards the end of your series as a way to kind of just build tension, because seemingly Natsu has reached the strongest pinnacle he'll ever going to get. I don't know why. Like, he hasn't done anything aside from be magically brought back from death because of Wendy or Lucy Righty, like, fucking up his little demon notebook thing. And then he was like, I'm a god tier character now. Like, I could beat this dude with infinite magic because my flames are savage emotions. I don't get the context, but let's just go along with it. Say it makes perfect sense. Natsu has beaten Seraph. He's seemingly reached his pinnacle and beaten Seraph when Seraph could not be any stronger. And at the same time, Actologia has been defeated. So everything would be ready to wrap up. However, we have 10 chapters left, so there's something that's going to twist this up. And it would be very appropriate if Actologia is in fact not done yet, because although it is appropriate that characters would have to sacrifice themselves to defeat this ultimate antagonist for the world of Fairy Tale, I don't know if the combined sacrifices of a comic relief character who was not all that much beloved, at least not by me, and then someone we've only known for about 2 months or so, those don't really fit the bill of like, well, that's an appropriate quid pro quo for this kind of transition here. So I imagine there's something there, and Seraph will get his power back. Perhaps he absorbs Mavis and uses her or something like that. But it's just one of those things where this is some manner of conclusion to the Seraph-Natsu fight. Even if it's not the end of their fight, this was the level of conclusion to it, and it was a very unsatisfactory conclusion to it. Because again, Natsu didn't really do anything special. He just got powered up and beat up Seraph all of a sudden now, and then won. Like, it wasn't even like a cool attack or anything like that. He just punched him really hard with a bunch of fire, which is how Natsu's attacks always kind of look.
I don't know. You know, it says something that you say that I'm sure that this is a false finish, and I go, I'm not sure, though.
That is true. You can never be certain.
Because, like, you know, with so many other series, I would just be like, oh, okay, well, clearly, like, in the next chapter is going to end with Actologia clawing his way out of the barrier between space and time, or whatever the hell you call it. because there's no way he would go down like such a chump like that. But with Fairy Tail, I'm like, I mean, I guess it could end that stupidly, couldn't it? So, I mean, obviously something's got to happen in the next several chapters. You can't just, like, have nothing go on. But, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like you're a lot more optimistic about this than I am at this point.
I think it's a necessity of optimism, Nick, because if I wasn't, I'd say, like, wait, one of the big final moments of this series was given to fucking Ichiyu of all people? Are you fucking kidding me? The perfume dude? Did his stupid perfume cat doppelganger die too? I think there's the option for more to happen, since it does feel weird if the one of the big final moments was shared between those two characters and not like Urza and Gray and Lucy and Jaleel, all these other kinds of characters. But as you said, it wouldn't be out of nowhere for Fairy Tail to end an arc in this manner, for everything to get wrapped up very quickly, very neatly, without much satisfaction to it. So,
I do have to wonder if they're going to do something where they're like, well, Aknologia is dead or gone forever, however you want to look at it. So Zeref's got no reason to be evil anymore. And it's like, well, we've forgiven worse people than him, I guess.
I mean, I assumed that he would get some manner of face turn, but this seemed like the kind of character you give a face turn to as he dies, kind of like Obito from Naruto, where it's like, he wasn't that bad of a guy, kind of just, fell into the wrong mentality, went crazy, that sort of thing. But who knows? We have quite a few chapters of Fairy Tail left before we get to the conclusion, and I guess we'll just see where the next couple chapters take us.
Yeah, but Aknologia will claw his way out of the abyss, and Mavis and Zeref will hold hands and use, I don't know, fairy brain or something like that in order to kill him forever or something.
And then they have to watch out for Kaguya, who shows up. She's like, I'm the villain of this series now! And
everyone's like, who are you?
She's like, I'm going to send you all to the acid dimension. All right, you've seen it. Let's go back. Never again.
Well, wasn't that nice?
Oh, it's so helpful. None of us could have survived that acid dimension. We were fucked.
Now we're gonna go into the candy dimension.
I'll fight you in my true dimension.
It's short for the candy you eat in order to get strong enough to be Kaguya dimension. Let's spend all of our time fighting in here.
The acid dimension is but one of mine. Perhaps we'll do final battle in the fighting dimension, where all punches are 20 times stronger. It's like, and I'll see you punch.
And also, I don't have hands when I'm in this dimension.
I replace them with tiny fish hooks, but if I get in on you, you'll be done for.
There's also a dimension where fish hooks deal 500 times greater damage, but you don't want to go there.
Oh, I know. The power's too weak for you. I have a more fitting conclusion.
Now just come on, try and punch me with your weak, super strong fists. This is a great plan. Okay. Alright, we are going to move on now to Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma. Last time, we got the big conclusion of the judgment between the Kinokuni's contest with Soma. Soma won, of course. We saw Kinokuni's ass, because of course we fucking did. And yeah, Soma's been declared the victor. We get a lot of celebration between Soma and his friends. And then there's also a little moment where Erina goes a little bit tsundere on him and refuses to give him a high five, and then he just kind of ignores that and just moves on to high five other people.
Yeah.
So, we get a little bit of Rindo trying to comfort Kinokuni, blabbermouthing like she normally does, like, you don't have to say anything. You did good, so you don't have to say anything. She's like, I wasn't going to say anything. Leave me alone.
I do really appreciate what Window is to the Central team, though, because it would be a little bit less satisfying if all of Central was essentially like the notion of Azami, and they all just looked to Kinokuni because she lost it, or like, you loser, get out of here. But it's like Rindo actually is this heart that actually seems to like everybody in her group and wants them to do well.
She's the one who seems to get along with basically everybody.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her not get along with anyone yet, honestly. So now we're going to be cutting over to Ishiki's battle as we get to chapter 215. And you have to remember this.
Oh, wow.
Thickness is justice.
I didn't realize how inappropriate that title is on the cover page of two young girls in like short shorts and.
What are they even like dressed as? Is that?
I think they're meant to be like maybe like race car. Like,
it kind of does look that way with the long boots, yeah.
The long boots and like the racing stripes on the shorts. I don't know what you'd call them. I guess, but just like
especially because they've got Totsuki advertised all over. Is it like the race car team that Totsuki advertised?
And why is the American flag bikini girl there? She hasn't done anything recently.
Yeah, she's like Rebecca.
She's just not an important character.
I'm a character. So we get some reaction from the fan base of Central. Idol Girl is like, "Oh, this is awful!" into the microphone, basically. And now it's time for Julio to take on Ishiki. And so we get a little bit of a recap. Hey, remember, they're, doing eel.
Yes.
And Julio finishes up his dish, and he gets it all set up, brings over plates for the judges. And we get the whole thing about what's going on with them as they smell the wonderful aroma coming off of it. And he says, "This is my capitolino." I don't know any foreign languages. So, yeah, he's done his kind of Italian-style eel dish. And which Soma refers to, and I've never felt so connected to Soma as a person as when he does this, which is like, hey, what exactly is capitoni in umedo mean anyway? I'm guessing eel is something in Italian, right?
I love that sort of notion. This is like a Boardwalk Empire joke that not many people are going to get, but they introduced Bobby Cannavale's character in the third season, Chip Brassetti, who is just this super aggressive gangster, but he was very easy to offend. And at one point, Nucky's like finishes a deal with him, and he's like, "Buon fortuna." Like he knows it's like a good way of saying good luck in Italian or something like that. So he has one of his like lower, like hirelings who's finishing a job with him say like, "Oh, say it." So you see the guy has opened up the note and it reads, "Bone for tuna." So he says he says it like that. And
Bone for tuna.
Yeah, bone for tuna. So like they drive away and Jipper says he's in the fucking car and he's like, "What do you think he meant? Bone for tuna." He's like, the fucking Irish guy probably just didn't know how to pronounce it. And then he just gets infuriated with, he's like, he's wishing me good luck with that shitty voice, bone for tuna. And it starts a war, essentially. And I love that notion of just a dude who's just like, what? Capitone? What does that mean?
It starts a gang war because of his bad Italian.
I mean, the way they describe Chip Brassetti, he's the man who could find an insult in a bouquet of flowers. He kind of...
Oh, I have actually heard that line before.
He could find basically a reason to get angry because he already is. But yeah, that's essentially what kind of starts. And he's like, he's wishing me good luck.
Oh, man.
It's great.
I do love that he has a delayed reaction because he doesn't fucking care. He said, oh, man. So, anyway, Takuni helpfully explains to Soma that it means stewing eel, essentially. And so the judges bite into it. And so, Chris, at this point we have seen these three judges. They tasted Kinokuni's dish, and it was like they were leaping through time, like the Ghibli film.
I forgot about that.
They did Soma's dish, and it was like they were out at a festival together. It was a nostalgic dish that brought up wonderful memories of having a good time in summer. Mm. They bite into this dish, and they are overwhelmed by the thickness of the sauce, of the tomatoes. Thanks to the San Marzano tomatoes, this dish's sauce remained thick and rich, with a marvelously full-bodied taste. This thickness is embodied by the males, imagining that the female judge has ginormous gazongas. It's like being pinned and squeezed within a big and bountiful bust. And she is squeezing their bodies between her huge tits.
There are moments, maybe, if you read Food Wars, that you'd forget that this is a gentleman who at one time used to just draw hentai. And then there these moments come in that remind you of it, because there's nothing. There's nothing in that notion that suggests this. I've never eaten something like, first and foremost, I don't think I've ever eaten something that isn't like a soup that I've been like, wow, this is thick. Like, I've never bitten into like a meat of any kind and be like, this is so thick. But
no, the sauce is thick.
Oh, even the sauce is so, alright. Certainly then, if I've never bitten into a sauce and said, this is so thick, have I ever then thought, it's so thick, it's like I'm being crushed between giant boobs. Like, I can't even comprehend, like, it's like that, Jeff Goldblum, like, Independence Day style, like, it's the thickness, like, glue. Glue is, a sort of adhesive. You use adhesive sometimes in strip clubs to put nipple tassels over. Nipple tassels cover boobs. Boobs that are big are great. We have to stop the aliens with giant boobs. Like, it's like that. Like, I don't know where the disassociation started, but I don't know how we got to this.
Oh, man. Ranadio in the chat makes a very strong point, which is, what does it taste like to the female, Joseph?
We don't know exactly. We just see that she gets angry.
She doesn't describe it at all. It's just the guys going just like, oh man, imagine it. Her tits are huge. We're being squeezed with them. And they say this out loud, and she gets really pissed off and slaps them across the face. And it's like, well, our boobs aren't small.
It's also sort of weird, too, that they do that, because it also that implies that this isn't just like a natural inclination within them. Like, this isn't just like instinctively what someone would feel as they do this, because they then have to kind of describe, like, it's incredible. It's that small-chested girl was given such big, bountiful breasts. It's like, this feels way too active and now really creepy from these judges.
I had such great feelings left over from the revelation that they were really good friends during Soma's dish, and now it's just like, but how do they really think about their compatriot here?
Yeah, that definitely makes a few questionable moments. Just like, yeah, remember like a week ago when we were like best friends at a carnival together? Have you guys all been thinking about how small my tits were then and how big you wish they were because you were eating something thick at the time? Like, oh man, this gelato is so thick. I wish.
Well, yeah, if you had huge tits, I wouldn't feel so. I would feel way worse about being friend zoned by you. It's like, wow, okay.
I want the inverse to be. We don't see it here. Maybe we'll get it next week though. But in contrast,
oh man, if Ishiki's dish comes out and she like imagines like getting like a sensuous massage from both of them, and they're like really pretty or something like that, then it's like, okay, then now you're good. That's fine.
I want, though, what she felt when she tasted this dish is she imagined the men as they are in the page before where they're super muscular and in Speedos. And she essentially imagined them. I don't know if you watched the first SpongeBob movie, but essentially what it was like when David Hasselhoff like shot SpongeBob back into the water where like his pecs like slammed together like a robot. And she's like, it's like being caressed between these two bountiful pecs.
Anyway.
It's not even the end of the chapter. It's just so weird.
Yeah, they offer some heavy praise to Julio. They're like, yes, I have sacrificed body and soul for my craft. So, Satoshi Ishiki, give me your best shot. And Ishiki's like, all right, well, for my dish, I've made use of a few, shall we say, special ingredients. And the Polaris dorm people who are inside the cage are like, wait a minute, that's our stuff from Polaris! And, yeah, that looks as though Ishiki is like, I'm gonna theme the fuck out of this dish. Fuck you, Central. So,
I do really like that notion that, like, cause we've seen Ishiki cook before and we've seen that he's very talented, but we've never really seen his specialty. Like, it's always kind of been kept hidden. But I really like the notion that in this moment, his specialty is essentially he's bringing what everyone from Polaris brings together to create a dish, and I really think that's a fun concept and idea to go with. It does make me worried for Ishiki going forward because that would have been my ace in the sleeve. It's like revealing your last name in the Order of the Stick comic. Like, I'm just gonna keep this in my back pocket just in case. But
you think that maybe he's going to maybe he's going to win this one and then get beaten immediately afterwards.
I mean, unless they have the baseball hat guy defeat the third-ranked dude who we've never seen do anything yet to this point, it's going to be a clean sweep for like the Soma team. And in that case, I have to imagine they're going to take some losses coming up soon. Ishiki and the other second years up
well, and then kind of get knocked down back to reality afterwards.
I think, basically it's just going to kind of hinge upon which council members go up, but all the second years up to me on Soma's team are extremely disposable because they're already established, more or less.
So, that said, let's move on to Dr. Stone. Z equals 11, Weapon of Science. Little cover page shot of the three main characters floating through space like astronauts. Yuzuriha's weird headband is part of her helmet design. Okay.
Well, good for her. She's got her aesthetic.
Yeah. So, last time, Tsukasa apparently broke the fuck out of Senku's neck. Yay. But this time we get a bit of a follow-up to the line that he said at the end of last chapter, right as he was doing it, that if they had met before all of this happened, then maybe they would have been great friends. And we see kind of an imagined version of how that would have been like. Tsukasa helping to fight off the bullies, doing science experiments, using him as kind of a guinea pig, and him getting a doll made by Yuzuriha during the shuttle experiment, and it's kind of sad, honestly.
I love this. It is very sad, and I love how it all kind of comes together. There's a lot said here with very little, because most of the scenes here are various scenes we've seen in the flashbacks. We've seen the bullies attacking Senku's stuff on the beach and Taiju protecting him, but this just kind of inserts Tsukasa in there, and we saw the dolls last chapter. This one adding one in there. We also see a shot of Tsukasa walking along with a young girl who's presumably his little sister, and we know that
he's got the shell necklace that he wasn't able to get to her.
Yeah, and he talks about, he's talked about in the past how he is very protective of a younger sister, and he's kind of alluded to that notion before. And this just adds a lot to this narrative without having to use words, really. Just the notion of, oh man, if only we had met sooner, we could have been friends. And it's almost this like very sad alternate history, ultimate reality almost, that you kind of feel sad doesn't exist, because as it starts to evaporate, we come to the reality, which is Taiju assumedly holding Senku's dead body.
And, he's screaming at him, saying, "Oh, come on, talk to me." He's bursting into tears. Yuzuriha is also distraught. And Tsukasa is doing his whole, not really getting the point thing. He's like, "He felt no pain, and I trust you shall give him a proper burial." Taiju has a reaction, and Tsukasa is immediately like, "Huh. Maybe I should have thought this through a little better, because he might actually try and fight me now." Because he realizes, he was never going to actually start anything with me as long as Yuzuriha was here, but I didn't really account for what would happen if I killed Senku, how Taiju would react. So he's like, "Hey, don't come at me, man, because I'll kill you too." But Taiju picks up a big rock, and Yuzuriha, reacts as thinking that Taiju is going to get himself killed as well as Tsukasa gets ready to defend himself. And Taiju starts to whisper something to Yuzuriha after he says, "I'm not losing it yet." And so he then starts to apologize to her after whispering something, but she says, "No, it's okay. The three of us promised each other that this will work." And so Taiju says, "Yeah." And he throws the rock high up into the air. And Tsukasa's like, "Why?"
Say what now?
What are you doing? So the rock is up in the air, and Tsukasa responds about as rationally as you can expect. It's like, okay, so maybe he's trying to distract me. So he watches where the rock is going to come down, but he's also watching Taiju in his field of vision. He's like, okay, I can't let him actually use this thing to get the drop on me. But what the big mistake that he has made is that he has dismissed Yuzuriha in his mind. She's no longer his hostage, so therefore she's worthless in his eyes. And he's not paying attention to her as she sets about running around while he's dividing his attention between the rock and Taiju. And, so this is a little crazy, and I'm losing my place in the goddamn jump that won't load pages. There we go. Okay. She picks up a canister of the gunpowder that she has gathered and throws it at Tsukasa. He realizes finally, wait a minute, and spins around, does a spinning heel kick to stop it. But of course, this shatters the pot and spreads black powder everywhere. And so Tsukasa realizes too late what's going to happen as Taiju and Yuzuriha regroup near Senku and kind of try to take cover. As the rock smashes down the gunpowder, and Taiju says, "Goodbye, Tsukasa." And there's a huge goddamn explosion.
That is very big. This is an incredible chapter. There's so much to this, so much tension, and they did finally get to what I was hoping they would, where Yuzuriha got to be the hero of a moment. Now, you could argue that it's a bit unfortunate that she's essentially the hero because she's a woman and not considered a big threat to Tsukasa. I don't know if he deliberately at any point says because she's a woman he doesn't fear her physicality, but, Taiju, with his superhuman strength and endurance, it presents this physical threat that is enough to at least cause a miscalculation on Tsukasa's part that enables her to do this. But I don't honestly care about that because he actually does note it's because of women. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah.
In Tsukasa's mind, women as a whole existed to be protected by men and their weapons.
So there is that. But I'm just happy that it's a moment where she and her efforts are what create this turnabout, that she was able to take this risk, to jump at it, and she has the same conviction as the other two. She has the same passion that Senku and Taiju have, and I'm glad for that. I prefer, and maybe we still find out some speciality that she has down the line, but ultimately, I just want her to be involved. I want her to do things.
Participant, yeah.
Yes. I don't want her to be just a character on the sidelines, and I'm very glad to see that this was a moment, essentially, that all three of them, even if it was sort of unconscious for Senku, to come together in this defeat of Tsukasa. I'm a little sad because I don't know what we haven't seen the series really deal with living character death yet thus far. So who knows? Maybe Tsukasa survives this, but if he doesn't, I'm sad because I've grown to really like Tsukasa a lot. But
I guess we'll have to find out. It's a really badass moment, though. I agree. It's a creative way to address this kind of situation. It's not the kind of typical way of dealing with an enemy. They didn't just make a weapon; they just made this most makeshift possible bomb. But it all worked out because of the strengths and their personalities that they all put together. And in the end, it is science that did the job. So
I'm very excited to see next week. I really want to see what happens, and I love this chapter. Everything about it is great.
There was one thing that I hadn't noticed before, which is that the cracks on Yuzuriha, you see them like on the side of her neck and on her shoulder. They're like a spiral pattern. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that because I don't know if they've just not been clearly shown before or what, but you get a good look at them when she's rushing to grab the black powder because there's a shot at her from the side. And so first off, it matches her headband because of course it goddamn does. But when you think about it, she was protected by the tree and the vines growing around her. So it makes sense that there would be cracks in that pattern. So,
yeah.
Pretty cool.
I like that a lot. All right.
Yeah, so really good chapter. Let's move on to We Never Learn.
Yes, We Never Learn, Problem 12. What she wants from a genius's ex. So there's no real reason to say what happened last time because every chapter in this series basically creates its own new story. And this time deals with a new character. That is president of the science club, Sawako Sakijo. Or Sakaijo, I don't know how to say it. Look, guys, you know my Japanese sucks. She is the president of the science club, and as such, she has a close relationship with Ogata, who was the science girl, as you know, Thumbelina Princess, or Scientific Thumbelina, whatever the fuck her name was. The one who was in science and is now trying to get into humanities. And this chapter deals with her kind of reacting to that, particularly that she's been seeing Ogata going out frequently with Yuiga. And she's kind of interrogating her, like, I've seen you with him at several locations. She's actually followed them.
I thought we had something special.
Yeah, like, follow them and taking pictures. And I kind of like this because even though they're part of the same, like, class and everything like that, and she's, like, Seiko is Sakicho is the one getting, like, the second place on all the science tests and everything like that. Okada doesn't know who she is. Like, she's like, Sakicho, that is your name, right? I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, it's just like such a fucking like a just understated shade throwing she just did. But Sakicho is basically saying, like, so you're in love with him, right? That's why you want to do it. And Okada's like, impossible. Love is not helpful to, not conducive to knowledge learning.
What is this love you speak of?
But Sakichu's like, no, I know you do, and I'm going to find out. So we cut over to Yuiga, who's helping Ogata study at her udon shop that her family owns. And Sakicho has just invited herself along and is just, like, sitting there slurping up fucking udon as they're working.
I love that that's the reveal of her. Like, she's just staring them down while they study, but she's also, oh, you just are so good!
She, like, tries to play it off. She's like, oh, I was just hungry, and I happened upon this place. Don't mind me. It just happened to sit next to you, too. But she's like...
I mean, she's doing a pretty convincing job of that. It's like...
I'm just like, wow, that's great method act. She's like, no, I'm really hungry. But she's like, I'm going to get to the truth of this. So she starts trying to basically cozy on upside Yuiga and asking him, like, oh, what kind of girl do you like? And he's like, oh, what do you mean? And the entire time she's kind of doing this, Ogata just doesn't give a fuck. She's just, like, writing the entire time. So Yuiga's, like, entertaining it. He's like, I guess I'd be interested in a partner who would help support our family even if we were poor.
Jesus Christ, you're a fucking nerd.
He's like, I guess I'd want someone with good morals, fiscal responsibility, but ultimately it's just about what we can bring to each other. She's like, God damn it, I just wanted you to say if you like tits or ass. Come on. Well, you like blondes or brunettes? Come on, kid. So she keeps kind of, like, trying to, like, hit at this, like, what's going on, and Ogata just doesn't care, and it's kind of angering Sakicho because she's like, you know, why is she reacting? What's going on? And Yuiga's just kind of weirded out too. He's like, oh God, all these girls are suddenly being attracted to me. I don't know how to react to this. And Sakicho
and the transformation to Osamu is continuing as planned. Oh, how do I deal with this? Oh.
Sakicho keeps escalating this until Yogata finally responds and basically is like, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to study here. And she literally kicks both of them out of her family's udon shop. Like, I like it.
And Yuiga's like, why did I get kicked out too?
I like that Yuiga got kicked out, and I like even more that they kicked Sakicho out, because she's actually a paying customer at that point. She is. But they continue their conversation outside, and Yuiga's just like, how many times do I have to explain this to you? There's nothing going on between us. We're just tutoring one another. And Sakicho gets kind of sad, and she's like, so you're saying that she's taking this interest in liberal arts for her own reason? And she seems kind of sad about that. Yuiga's like, oh, you seem like you're a really caring person, and, you know, most people wouldn't care about a rival's future path. You seem really concerned. So I think that's nice. And she's like, you got it wrong. I'm not concerned. I'm concerned for my sake ultimately, because if she goes to a liberal arts school, that means I can't test for the same program to go to the same school with her. And they basically just kind of make like, Yuiga's kind of like, look, if you just want to be friends with her, why don't you just say be friends with her? She's like, what? I didn't say anything about being friends. Get out of here, loser, man, whatever. Hashtag. Ogata comes out. And she's finished her assignment, and Yuiga grades it, and he's like, "Oh wow, you've gotten almost half of the questions right." And Shikicho kind of notes, like, normally like a 50%, lower than a 50% would hardly be a cause for celebration, but she really was a failure at all this stuff beforehand, so she is making real progress. And Yuiga like compliments her, is like, "Keep up the good work." And he does that head pat thing again, and we get a basically like a 2-page spread reaction of it. Yeah. I guess in the harem manga, this is like essentially equivalent to punching the main antagonist in the face and like sending him through a building. I guess in shonen terms, that's what this would be.
I kind of feel like giving you a head pat. Like, oh, you are such a novice when it comes to these type of shit series.
And she says like, "Don't treat me like a child, ha ha ha." But Shikicho starts flipping through her notebooks and is kind of reading along with her notes, and she's like, I guess she doesn't even realize it. Basically, that's the end of the chapter. They kind of go their own separate ways. And Shikicho's saying, well, if Agato doesn't realize her own feelings, then things are going to get kind of complicated. It seems to be that this is a character that they aren't outright stating it, but that she's maybe someone who actually is attracted to Ogata herself, which would be an interesting element to add into one of these series. I think that could make for like a side character who would be fun. It would also be nice to have a female character in this series who isn't also like, I want to bang this guy directly. It's nice to kind of build your representation and just build a cast that's a little bit more expansive and diverse. So I get that. I enjoy that. I guess I'm not like crazy into this character yet, if only because she just hits too many of the harem quota notes. Like it's almost as though they're like, Ogata's not tsundere enough. So we need a little bit more.
Because she's kudere.
Okay. So she hits this different area. So we need someone to fill in there and hit this.
We need someone who's actually standoffish and angry. Yeah.
But this could work. And I think if, again, there's an element to We Never Learned where I think that there is very quality writing behind it. And I feel as though if you added this element of a side party who's actually already kind of denying their own feelings for one of the main girls, as you'd call them, and that's something that has to be developed and addressed as things go on, I think that could be a very interesting story to tell. I hope that that's the direction it goes and that it doesn't go another direction. Again, it's not outright stated that Shikicho has feelings for Ogata. She may.
Because you're wrong, Chris. I'm sorry, man. You are so off on this.
All right. If you think it's just
it's nothing romantic about it. I think that I mean, look, if you want to make this like your big like, if I turn out to be right, then I owe you kudos or something like that. Then
free pizza, Nick.
Oh, sure, why not? If you turn out to be right on this, and she turns out to have real romantic feelings for Ogata, yes, I'll buy you a pizza. Sure,
it's all on record. You are all witness to this.
Yeah, sure. You know what? Fine. But because honestly, like, if that is the angle that they actually go for with this, that would be kind of interesting. Like we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, I think, where we mentioned, hey, it would be kind of interesting if they did a harem series and hey, some of the girls in the harem actually end up hooking up with each other. That could be interesting. But I really don't think that that's the direction it's headed, mostly because I don't get even the slightest hint of even teasing like a romantic interest between Ogata and Seikijo. I think that it's more a close rivalry friendship thing, which you do see very often, honestly, just in manga in general. I do like, though, putting that aside, more important than that even, that we have this female character introduced that does not seem to be headed towards being just a member of the harem in the slightest. And I hope that she continues to have a recurring supporting role at the very least, because it would be nice to have a regular character who has a different sort of reaction with Yuiga than, you're my tutor, who I have a crush on, and that's it.
Mm. Regardless of how it ends up, it does seem that to be that Shikiju is going to occupy a spot in the cast that does take her out of at least the framework of another harem girl, which is always going to be nice. So, this is a fine chapter. Again, this is the character of Shikiju, though, ultimately didn't do a whole lot for me. I didn't feel this to be a particularly like funny chapter or anything like that, but not every chapter of a harem series is going to have a whole lot to get excited about. A lot of times it's just kind of like, hey, here's some slice of life stuff and a couple jokes that maybe won't get your knees slapping, but hopefully they'll entertain you.
Ginger Straw Hat puts it pretty concisely, which is maybe she'll become the Rory of the cast. Yeah, that's basically it, yes. Although no one is as funny as Rory, so that's not going to be quite right. But anyhow, let's move on to the Promised Neverland. Kids disappeared in the last one, as we pick up with Chapter 39, Beyond Expectations, with Emma and Ray, and what's their names, looking for the rest of the kids, because Dawn and Gilda and all the young kids are gone. As they look around the forest, all of a sudden, the roots beneath their feet open up, and they fall into a dark pit below.
Credits.
Yep. All the kids are dead now. So they're in a cavern down below. Gradually, their eyes adjust to the darkness, and they're able to see their way around. And after looking around for a bit, they happen to come across the rest of the kids, who have the lantern. And we get this big panel of the groups reuniting and relief flooding over them. Which is a really cool shot, honestly. Just, them looking at the stuff around them as there are these weird fish bug things flying through the air in the background, and Ray's just like, what the fuck are those?
I mean, I've always been thinking of those. I as a baby, with my memories, I thought of
That's
creatures
my original character,
Yeah. Sonic Boom hasn't come out yet. You can't take my OCs!
This gets more and more manic about it. It was my idea to put Matt back. Hang on. Yeah. It was my idea for Sonic to have bandages around his shows.
He loses all chill, just starts freaking out.
Anyway. So, all the young kids are like, wow, this is really weird, and start to just kind of get excited by the stuff surrounding them. But Ray looks at things in a much more pessimistic view, of course, which is like, what the hell are all of these weird bugs and plants? I have never heard of any of this shit. This is so weird.
Well,
how the hell did the world change this much in the time between those books were published and where we are now? Because this is ridiculous. So.
Well, it is strange that in a series that's all about how these kids are incredibly smart and everything like that, how they've reached this place where they're like, hold on, I don't recognize any of the bugs or the plants or anything like that. Like, I get that they're kids, so they're just like, oh, wonder and amusement. But, like, Ray's the only one who's skeptical, and even he's not even thinking, like, hey, if these are bugs and plants we don't recognize, they could be dangerous. Like,
yeah.
Even if they're not, like, giant monsters ready to eat us, they could easily give us a rash. We could be allergic to them. Like, we could be unprepared for what they do. They could be indicative of another danger. Like, it's just that notion of, like, when you come across strange wildlife or plant life, you usually probably, like, I feel like the kid, like a super intelligent kid would be like, oh, we should be careful and not fuck with things, essentially.
Well, and also, I guess it also has to do with, Ray's a very kind of cerebral type of guy. Mm-hmm. So he is seeing this and he's looking at, and he's thinking about how it affects the big picture.
That's true. And I should note, that's not a complaint on this series or anything like that. That's right. A nitpick on my mind. I was just thinking, like, man, if I were in those shoes, again, I'm not even that smart, essentially.
We're gonna get diseases.
Yeah, but in my mind, I'm just like, oh, I've watched Fucking Planet Earth. I know what weird shit animals can do. All right, I'm not trusting that shit. Look, I read the stories about that thing.
I've watched the 1997 Lost in Space movie. This shit is gonna be bad.
I've read the stories about the parasite that climbs up my fucking pee stream and inserts itself into my dick and then it has to get cut off. All right. I'm not running the risk of some dickhole destroying monster coming at me the moment I get out of this place. I lost my ear, not losing my dick. All right, Emma, you hear me?
Chris, you didn't need to chop your ear off.
She's like, first and foremost, I'm not sure who you are. You're not one of the kids, because clearly you're 30. I'm like, hey, almost 30. It's different. You can't backsass me.
You're stuffed into one of the white uniforms.
Like one of the girls' uniforms, too. So it's just like a mini skirt that goes down, like, just beneath crotch level, essentially. I'm like, I've still put my hair up.
We live in the year 2046 or some shit. I'm pretty sure that this still violates public decency laws.
I've for some reason put my hair up into little tiny pigtails. I'm like, let's go, kids. Let's go, fellow millennials.
You're holding a skateboard.
Like, sir, can you please leave?
Just once, I'd like someone to call me sir without saying you're making a scene.
It's a great Simpsons joke.
All right. Emma also has a reaction to all of this going on because she's like, hey, we've discovered all this new danger. And she has a kind of bizarre reaction to it, which is, I'm glad we now know how dangerous the world is. No, you don't. But this also renews her determination that of their ultimate goal to find William Minerva. They wander around the caverns, essentially just kind of going where it leads to, while Ray continues to wonder, we don't know where all this is going. What if we don't find any escape route? And what the hell is all this? Why is there this cavern down here? And everyone's like, oh, look at this pretty fuel we discovered under the ground. And Ray's like, nobody's listening to me.
Nobody pays attention to me. I have such great ideas.
I was going to set myself on fire.
You guys understand. Fire purifies and cleanses. It's like it's like the jazz of elements.
Oh, the jazz teach again!
You don't understand. It's chaotic and formulaic at the same time.
We've all watched the movie, Ray.
Well, correction. None of us have. We all know it's annoying now because of you.
Because you read that Wikipedia article over and over again.
You guys don't understand how much work it took to film that one first shot. I don't care. The song's not that good.
All right. So, everyone's like, hey, there's this dead end here. But Don's like, oh, I could climb it up. And then one of the kids, Nat, is like, oh, look at that. And he sees that there are a bunch of decaying animal corpses strung up in vines in the ceiling of the cavern. And Ray's like, this is bad. The roots start to move again, starting to lash out at the kids and try and grab them, and also cutting off the entrance into the field that they came in through. And Ray finally realizes this is the Treys feeding ground. These Treys capture animals to eat! And everyone's like, that doesn't make any sense. No, that's it. Stop doubting me. Ugh.
I'm sorry. Do you guys have your baby memories, which allows you to have
God, not the time, Ray.
Well, maybe you don't understand, but I was hearing Mom talk about animals since I was in the womb. Thus, I have a much more extensive collection of knowledge of fauna and flora.
Wait a minute. You knew Mom when you were... Oh, right. That's my backstory. That's super sicker than...
Right. Oops. Forget you heard
about that. Forget about that like you forgot your baby memories.
Make like our baby memories and just forget about everything we just heard. I never could, because I don't know if you guys heard, but
oh, good, you fell asleep.
I still have my baby memories. Like, God damn it, Ray!
Haven't they been eaten already?
Why won't you just die? Why do we keep saving you?
Ray does come to the realization, oh yeah, there were no animals up on the surface because this thing was eating them, so they knew well enough to stay the fuck away from here. So, there you go. But this is also an important revelation because Ray realizes it's not just, demons we have to worry about, it's not just wild beasts we have to worry about. Nature itself is our enemy. So everyone's like, what do we do? And Don's like, we should burn it. And Ray's like, that sounds like a great idea, but we'll chuck him a smoke and die. But Emma's really quiet during all of this, and all of a sudden she's like, wait a minute, I've read about this in one of the books! And she pulls out one of William Minerva's books and she says, this is a guide, Mr. Minerva's adventure novel! So, and she refers to it as the snake of the something or other. So, yeah, more stuff being revealed. I like this chapter as a setup kind of chapter. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
It says something, I think, at least to me, that I find myself far less interested in the peril of a world of, I mean, it's magical in the sense, at least, that I don't know of creatures in the, like, flora in the world that works like this, but this idea of, like, a wild environment that's wrapping up and preparing to devour these children, as I was just the notion of a psychological kind of terror of mom, like, trying to hold. Like, I was much more engaged by the danger of that than I am in this, and it's not saying there's anything wrong with this. I find it interesting that, like, in my mind, I'm like, I mean, this is okay, but it's not as cool as that battle between mom and the rest of the kids was.
That's true. I guess that's because things were so well defined while they were in the house. And now it's kind of like they're in this more fantastical world, and now anything goes. So it sort of feels a little bit less fair when it takes you by surprise, I guess you could say.
It also just comes to the idea that, like, you know, any series can kind of write the idea of, like, hey, it's a killer tree and be okay. Like, you know, Promised Neverland's made its mark on being, like, hey, psychological battles and that kind of tension that comes with it. I do like this chapter, and I like the idea that, you know, Mr. Minerva's adventure books are essentially going to be their guide. It's very, what was the show? Gravity Falls. It's very much like that notion. We got to follow the journals. So I like that, and I definitely, as you said, I think it's a good setup chapter to it. So all in all, a fine chapter. It was kind of, this is one of the few times though where it's like, man, I really wish I hadn't gotten excited about last week's, like, cliffhanger when it was going to be addressed so quickly and so nonchalantly, like, all the kids are gone. Actually, they all just fell down. Yeah, they just fell down this hole. All of us are fine. I'm like, oh, come on, don't do this to me. All right. Let's move on then. All right. Let's move on to the 7 Deadly Sins, chapter 218. We meet again. So if you remember last time, all of the 7 Deadly Sins had finally gathered together. Diana? I think it's Diana. I've been seeing a bunch of DC stuff now, so now I'm like mixing her name up with fucking Wonder Woman's. I think it's Diana. That's gonna bother me. Anyway. Diana had mentioned that she got her memories back, and she started to kind of say, like, we're here to help you now, Gowther. And Gowther ran away, afraid to kind of face his own memories. He was basically saying, like, there's something going wrong with my head, like, I need to get rid of these. So he ran away, but before he could erase his own memories, Diane came in and stopped him. And that's where we pick up this week, as Diane is basically trying to prevent him from doing it. She says, Gowther, you were about to do it to yourself what had happened to me. You were going to erase your own memories, weren't you? That means you're so close to remembering something, isn't it? And Gowther kind of explains, he's like, no, I'm only trying to remove the static. And Diane's like, but what if that's your heart? And he says, you know, I have no heart. Don't get in my way. He's trying to knock her away to stop her from coming after him. But he's like, what's going on? With every evasion of my attack, her combat class is rising. I don't believe it. Combat class 15,100. Holy shit, that's a big number. And
the number, you know, it's been so long since the power levels and shit were actually used that I've completely forgotten the context for how high stuff was.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's what power levels ultimately are. Is it's a way of just saying somebody's strong right now, because mathematically don't really fully apply to things. So they reveal her 15,100, and she says, if I keep dancing like that, if I keep dodging things, I increase my power ever more. I guess the notion being that, like, it gets her, like, she just gets incrementally more nimble, agile, and increases her prowess in combat as she does it. Like,
well, and the rhythm is going to get her, you know.
Yeah. She's essentially like feather dancing over and over again. And once she caps out her stats, then she baton passes to a sweeper to come in and just clears you out. So she's chasing after Gowther. He's running away. He's going through the probabilities in his mind. He's like, 4% chance to succeed if I stay here. If I go here, the chance is blah, 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 blah. Runs into this tunnel, King's there, and he's like, King, not you too. And he sees King, and as King is floating in front of his, his backpack monster thing, he's like, combat class 41,600. Again, it's like, I don't have a contact. It's a big number. That's a really big number. And I think that means a lot.
I will say this. I'm getting very sick of seeing King with the shirtless knight's helmet look.
Yeah.
I really hope that stops soon.
I imagine it will soon, but who knows. And Gowther's like, oh, my chances have gone down even more. I don't understand. How'd you guys build up your combat class in such a short time? And somebody comes out.
They just give him the Saitama lecture from One Punch Man.
Yeah.
1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 push-ups. Sleep without the air conditioning on. Do it every day.
And somebody comes up saying, like, what's going on? What's all this commotion? And it's one of Elizabeth's sisters. It's Veronica. She comes up, and Gowther's like, oh, good, I'll take a hostage to escape. And when she sees Gowther, she's like, she says, like, Gowther, and it reminds Gowther of the girl that he had fallen in love with for just a brief moment. And that gives him a brief moment of hesitation that allows Diane to catch up with him and kind of grab him. And she basically kind of lectures him. She's like, how could you try to erase your memory so easily? And Gowther explains that I did this once before. It was right that I did this. I erased my memories, and yet they still remain. Why? And he starts screaming.
But the memory remains. I mean, come on.
It's right there, yeah. Merlin says, like, hey, don't let him go. I finally figured out the reason behind all of your mental instability. It's because when you almost recall one, you go berserk, like an attempt to reject it. And this is one reason why. She's holding up a heart. She says, apparently this is something that you received in order to bring back the king's sister, Nausea, when a heart illness took her prematurely, but Nausea didn't come back, and you were in such shock that you tossed this heart. Such shock that you tossed this heart into the castle basement and erased your memories. And Gowther starts kind of remembering all those, particularly remembering himself over her bloodied body after killing her and everything like that. And Diane kind of shakes him out of it, saying, pull yourself together because, there are a lot of painful memories there, but there must be precious ones as well. Of all of us, 7 deadly sins, remember them. And Gowther has this moment where he starts remembering all the good times he had with Nausea, all the moments that they shared together, and even a moment where his creator, Gowther, told him, like, make the dream I had that I could never have come true. And Gowther realizes the heart's been in him all along. The tears are more than proof of that. And
this right here, between you and me, it's the heart. I don't think I quite got the Okiora line down, but
this is where the other memory song comes in. Leave the memories alone, 'cause I don't want to, sir. Gowther remembers. He doesn't get rid of them. He keeps his memories. He's remembering everything, and he thanks Diane for it. And she says, it's good to see you again. And they share their memories together. The other 7 deadly sins kind of show up and are like, guess we missed out on this.
We're here too!
Yeah, they're like, hey, what's up? I guess we missed something important. And that's it.
Bond's like, we were too lazy to actually run really fast while chasing him down, so good luck. Good job, I mean.
I don't even know if Escobar actually, he's in the last page, but I don't think he actually did anything to get to that point. At least you see Bond and Melodious, showing up being like, guess we missed things. But yeah, that's how it ends. We see the 7 deadly sins kind of hanging about, walking together. And, by the suggestion of next week's chapter, it seems like we may get a brief kind of, filler chapter, or filler short story of, everyone before we jump back into things. And I'm glad. I like this chapter. I do enjoy that Gowther's character development is kind of reaching a good place. I do, like how everything tied together. It's cheesy, but it's fine if it's executed well. And I do think that this story was executed well.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got this whole thing, and I'm glad that we've rather suddenly, but welcomingly, gotten Gowther to a point where he can be an enjoyable character that you can get into, as opposed to him being a robot who ruins everything. So now the only bad character in Seven Deadly Sins is Merlin. So there you go.
Yeah, hey, I like Merlin.
Yeah, 1 out of 7 is not bad, you know.
But hey, I'm actually really looking forward to the notion of like getting a chapter or two where we just kind of have fun and we don't worry about the plot or anything like that and just enjoy it.
Yeah. So this whole thing, it turns out, with King and Diane going on their memory adventuring quest, it wasn't the best at certain times, but what we got out of it was really good. Mm-hmm. So we're actually going to wrap up now with Black Clover because there's no One Piece this week. So things did actually go by really quickly this way. Jeez. Asta has been confronted with the issue of ascending this volcanic peak when he has no magic in order to make a magic armor for himself to protect himself from the heat. He's got all of his awesome determination and stuff, but he can't anti-magic naturally occurring heat. So what's the guy to do? So Asta is forced to use his brain. And he does. He basically quickly realizes that the only thing that he can really do is to achieve his, like, Devilian form. And so he has to have a goofy moment at first where he's just like, you know, kind of does like a henshin kind of thing and goes, "Transform!" And Leona is just like, "Yeah, maybe you should go home now."
Yeah, he's like, head back, buddy.
But Asta's like, okay, well, let me think about this. So I activated unconsciously back then because I was close to death. So maybe I should try and kill myself by jumping in the... No, okay, maybe that's a bad idea.
We going to be done with having to talk about Black Clover now? Damn.
Yeah. Unbelievably, Asta actually just flat out says, like, well, jumping into this lava, no. That would just be reckless. I've got to actually think. And I'm like, well, he's going to be there for a while.
I'm like, oh, is this character development? He's not just going to be like, I jump face first into this challenge.
So he thinks again, and he actually remembers something that Leona told him, which is, there's no way a fool who doesn't know himself can manage it. So he's like, I don't know myself. No. The opposite of yes. Yes. I am a swordsman.
I am a swordsman. Breasts are also swordsmen. Breasts, giant breasts will defeat the alien. Guys, we can eat really thick soup.
All right. So he's like, okay, I've got anti-magic swords, which I can use because I don't have magic. But they can't do anything about this place. Also, I'm super strong and have awesome stamina. But it's a volcano. I've got key detection, though. And I can actually use it to detect when magma eruptions are and falling rocks are approaching me. And he demonstrates this by slashing through a flaming boulder. And he's like, oh, right! Key! The thing that makes every other element of this series worthless. So, essentially what he realizes is, because he can use ki to detect the flow of things, he can actually detect what is emanating from the sword. Which is, as he puts it, blackish stuff flowing from the sword. And he can make the power circulate through his body more at will. So he concentrates on what he can sense from the sword and forces it to circulate through his body more and gets his demonic form going. Okay? So, immediately, and rather suddenly, he just suddenly takes off towards the top of the mountain on this jet of black energy. And, which just so happens to coincide with the fact that, a bunch of the people going up the mountain have encountered this giant lava boss monster enemy. And, they're like, alright, we can fight it! And Noel's like, yeah, you go get it, Leo! And Leo's like, you've got water magic, you fight it. It's like, no, I don't have any mana left. So. Anyway, Asta on his black jet energy thing goes straight through it and keeps on going, flies through the air, basically almost catches up with Yuno at the very end as Yuno lands on the peak, and Asta then shoots past him, nearly falls into the magma at the top of the volcano. Leona's beaten him there? She does a kind of Dragon Ball Z thing where she afterimages so that she can get behind him and then punches him into the ground instead of, catching him. And, so, Asta has made it safely to the top. He's there. Yay!
And everyone was successful and happy.
Yeah, and Leona's like, now you can get in the hot spring. Strip!
So this is an interesting development in the sense that I didn't feel as though this was something that was going to be addressed again so quickly. And I suppose that's my mistake. I really take for granted, I guess, the pace at which Black Clover moves and kind of gets to things. I would imagine the idea of like building to the idea that Asta can control this darkness inside of him, this violent energy, even though he hasn't mastered it. But even just the notion of saying he can tap into it and kind of manage it. Because last time it happened, which was only like a couple months ago, he went berserk. He went like fucking full dark Asta, I'm going to kill you guys. Granted, there was blood magic and shit involved, but
that was mostly the blood magic, I think, yeah.
But it was still this,
because he was still fighting it when he was in that form.
Was he? All right.
Yeah, he stopped himself from bringing his cleaver down and stuff.
Perhaps I was mistaken on what this is. This is ultimately fine in a nutshell. It's just the thing of like, there's other characters here I want to follow, and I don't care about Asta, and I realize that's an issue when this series is primarily about Asta, but like, it was kind of just like a side comment here of, Noelle being like, hey, why don't you fight? You have water magic. She's like, I can't. That's, managing his mana skin is all the concentration I can muster. And I'm like, that's kind of where I'd rather see us at right now. Like, let's get into Noelle. Like, she has to grow. I know it was a moment for her just a chapter ago when she couldn't even conceive of the idea of managing the mana shield, but I feel like there's more room to grow her in front of things. That is to be like, hey, Asta's figured out another step forward. It's like, I didn't really feel like he hit a wall yet. But in general, it's fine. Yuno still beat him to the top, so he hasn't managed to surpass Yuno yet. It's just one of those things where I'm like, if you're somebody who's not into Asta, Black Clover can be very difficult to enjoy sometimes. But there are plenty of people.
Okay, so... Well, look. I'm kind of sick of every arc being an accomplishment for Asta. I really feel as though this breakthrough that he has would mean a lot more if there had been some sort of actual repercussion when he first used the demonic abilities of the sword. I'm not saying that he, had to kill one of the people that he was being sent after, but, what if, like, he had hurt Noelle before the threat of fate came out? What if there were something in between that moment and this one where he jumped to the conclusion of trying to use an ability, use the ability, and it backfired in some way. And then when he was forced into a corner like this, and maybe you followed his struggle a bit more, and then he was like, I literally have no choice. If I want to survive this, I've got to do it, and I've got to master it. Then it could have felt like a much bigger accomplishment. So, I mean, none of this is like... I'm at the point now where it's like, Black Clover doesn't really anger me or anything like that, where I'm just like, oh, this sucked or anything like that. But I keep on seeing potential for it to be something greater, and instead I just kind of see stuff that happens, and I think, all right, fine. So... Yeah,
it's kind of just what you hit upon there. I there's not an issue with this. No, plenty of people who are enjoying this chapter, enjoying the character of Leona and all that, and that's perfectly fine. If this is a series that you're enjoying for the reasons that it's successful and the reasons that it has been successful, then this is great. It's just one of those things that, as the kind of reader I am in this sort of series, I find myself liking. I kind of sit here hoping for that moment that I'm going to be able to get drawn into this too, and I haven't quite gotten to it yet. And I sometimes worry about the pace that this series moves at, if there's going to be enough for it to keep kind of having threads to look for in the future when it keeps addressing these things kind of incrementally and very quickly.
All right. We're done now. There's no One Piece, so recap's over. Let's talk about our favorites this week. Favorite series of the week, MVP. Go ahead, man. I gotta pull up
my series of the week is Dr. Stone. I love Dr. Stone. I thought it was a great chapter this week. A lot of tension to it. I loved that alternate reality that we got at the beginning and how they presented this sad kind of truth of what this end to Tsukasa's role in the story kind of is. And I think it was all in all just a really well done story, well told chapter, great art in it. Love the conclusion. It's just a great chapter.
I think that it is far and away the best chapter this week, because there weren't really like bad chapters this week, I don't think, but well, aside from Fairy Tail, I really didn't like Fairy Tail, but a lot of them were not, stand out for those series, and Dr. Stone had a really standout chapter this week that was really enjoyable and was a big climax to. It feels like it might be the climax to like the first arc, short arc of the story, but we'll find out, of course, shortly enough. And it won our popularity poll in the chat room for the first time too. So, MVP.
MVP, I'm gonna give to Yuzuriya. I like that she got a moment to shine. I know that there are some people who maybe say that she hasn't done enough to establish herself as anything more than what we kind of have worried she might become. But I just like that in this moment, if nothing else, here she was put upon the idea that she's just as much an equal as Senku and Taiju in this moment. She has all the same conviction, everything like that. And that's exciting for me. I'm hoping for more. And I really like that she had that moment.
I really don't know, honestly.
Tsukasa would be a good one too.
I actually was about to say that I think it's gonna be Tsukasa for me because he still seems really genuine in his messed up mentality about the way things are, and despite the fact that there's that big, literal explosive finale, one of the big parts of that chapter is just the way that he kind of imagines how things might have gone, and that was a really effective little way to start the chapter off. And it does really make me think that they're not done with him. I really don't think that much has been put into the character for him to vanish that way. Although I've also called the same thing with Senku, so I might be 0 for 2 on this.
Yeah,
there you go.
We shall see. All right.
Yeah, that's going to do it for this week of Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We record the show normally Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, roughly speaking, on both smashcast.tv/RotoT and twitch.tv/RotoT. If you still have the Hitbox link, I think it might still redirect. I've gotten used to actually putting in Smashcast in my web browser, but whatever. If you want to check out more of our show, you can follow us. You can see, let's see, he's got a Twitter account at RotoT. I've got a Twitter account, YWorldEarthTime. And of course, the podcast is an official Twitter account at WMR Podcast. You can check out past episodes of the show. weeklymangarecap.podbean.com is for all the audio files. You can also just subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you do that, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment to help us beat the woodworkers in the hobby section. And also subscribe to us on YouTube. Do the same thing.
Yeah.
Be sure to send us questions for us to answer on our Q&A episodes, suggestions for manga for us to read, or just provide general feedback. Send all that stuff to weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com so we can keep track of it all. We are currently in the process of doing a sort of review of Death Note, which we should have probably in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it should be coming up relatively soon. I don't know the exact week we'll have it up, but I believe it should be sooner rather than later. Yeah, we will be, I imagine, maybe preparing for some fairy tale stuff after that, so who knows.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we got an exciting time ahead of us. It's a new dawn, Nick. We're in the Jinder Mahal times now.
Depending on how this guy's title reign goes, because I can't imagine it's going to be especially impressive, but hey, you might surprise me, who knows.
You never know.
I look forward to using the phrase, the WWE champion Jinder Mahal of blanks when referring to things, so. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, special thanks go to our Patreon supporters. Your support allows us to create all sorts of bonus content for you guys to enjoy. We recently did a commentary of the new Netflix movie Blame, which you can check out. Has that been posted yet?
If you're listening live, you won't be able to, but if you're listening to this on YouTube or Podbean, whatever, afterwards, it should be out.
Okay.
You should just need to go to patreon.com/weeklymangarecap, and it'll be in there. It's free for everybody. You don't have to be a patron to get it, and it's accessible by everybody. You don't have to have a Patreon account. You just see a post on the page that you should be able to access and download the link right from there. And feel free to sync it up then with the video if you want to watch it on Netflix.
And finally, special thanks to the guys who helped us make the podcast what it is. Steve Mann, our title artist. You can check out his artwork in a number of different places. Be prepared. A lot of it is NSFW, but it's all great stuff. Special thanks as well, of course, to Infamous Plant, who made up this new frame for us, which we started using last week. So
yeah, he's been very. He also released a visual edition for the Incarnate discussion we've had. He's had some. We've had some discussions regarding visual editions and things like that. He actually put up a Twitter poll recently regarding it.
Yeah.
So
do you want to see more? Yeah.
So make sure to go and check that out if visual editions are an interest of yours. If you'd like to see more of them, or you want to put your opinion in on that, go check it out. Infamous Planet's Twitter is twitter.com/infamousplanet.
And that's it. So we will see you guys all next time with more manga. One Piece will be back, and we'll have some fun.
Will it be back, Nick? Do you know for sure?
I think so. I think it is, isn't it?
What if?
I think it's only this week.
But what if next week?
What if the world is destroyed before now and then?
Oh, Nick, what if Jinder Mahal's reign was too much and the universe implodes on itself? We weren't ready for this.
Jinder Mahal goes up to Vince. I think that we will have even greater success in India if you buy out Shonen Jump and have them stop printing One Piece.
Holy shit. Nick, you and I, we become the new Shield. We start interfering in wrestling matches and everyone's well, no, we can't have a theme song because we really need to rely on the element of surprise and weapons. We are not physically imposing the way they are. We really need to rely on a lot of pockets of sand. Forklifts, anything illegal we can get.
How would that finish out? Go, hang on a sec. Keep talking for a second. I need to look this up.
I imagine it'll be basically just a different pocket full of dirty tricks. It's just nothing but I'm just fish hooking people, and then I sneak
and
up
then putting them in the acid dimension.
Yeah. I do the fucking Japanese joke thing where I just fucking fingers up the butt take that, Randy Orton. He's just Vince, we gotta stop this guy before he tears WWE apart.
Eventually, they decide to start marketing it anyway because they've got to put their brand on shit. So we come up to Whiskey Mike Romeo WMR. Bam, bam. It's just Roman Reigns' theme for some reason.
And then 3 pay-per-views later, they do the blow-off match for it. So it's Team WWE versus Team WMR, and we've actually I've been replaced, and it's just you for some reason, Shane McMahon, the New Age Outlaws. And then some up and coming.
What the fuck is the original Nexus doing here? Damn it, we're gonna die.
Heath Slater, you're just this sucks. They always do this.
How the hell did they convince Ryback to come back? How is Michael Tarver here?
That's it, everybody. Goodbye.